Data Chief is a podcast for data and analytics leaders to share their personal stories and insights on technology, culture, and leadership. Welcome to the Data Chief.
The Data Chief is brought to you by ThoughtSpot, the AI-powered analytics company. With ThoughtSpot's user-friendly platform, anyone can leverage natural language search and generative AI to uncover actionable data insights. Whether you're a seasoned data analyst, a business leader, or product builder, ThoughtSpot empowers you to effortlessly interact with live cloud data, generating granular, hyper-personalized insights in real time. Learn why customers at Cigna, Just Eat Takeaway, and Capital One trust ThoughtSpot to drive business outcomes with data. Visit ThoughtSpot.com today.
Hi, Data Chief listeners. Welcome back. I'm Cindi Howson, your host of the Data Chief podcast. To kick off our 6th season of the Data Chief podcast in 2025, I am thrilled to introduce you to 3 visionaries in our space who will share their predictions, their trends, and actions that you must take in 2025. We'll start off with Matt Turck from FirstMark Capital, followed by Steve Nouri of GenAI Works, and last but not least, Joe Reis, the author of Fundamentals of Data Engineering. Matt Turck's annual MAD, Machine Learning, AI, and Data Landscape, is a must-read and a note I anxiously await each year to see where we agree, where we differ, and what I have yet to consider. Matt is a partner at FirstMark Capital, investing in so many iconic companies in our space. Companies like Dataiku, Boomi, Synthesia, and ClickHouse, to name just a few. He is also the host of the MAD podcast, one of the best podcasts to hear from founders and CTOs in our industry. Welcome to the Data Chief, Matt.
Thanks for having me. So it's a podcaster interviewing another podcaster. Is that what we're doing?
I know. Yes, that's what we're doing. We're just sitting around having coffee, solving all the world's problems, right?
Yes, we should be able to do that in 20 minutes.
Yes, and it's an exciting industry. Now, you travel the world, spend your time between France and New York, as well as other industry events. Where are you joining us from today?
Today is New York. I'm at the office, at the FirstMark office in New York.
Okay, I miss the city already. Matt, you've been a longtime investor in this space. Tell us a little bit about how you came to focus just on this segment.
Yeah, so look, I've been in and out of the data world one way or the other pretty much my entire career. So I started my career in technology as a founder, started a company that today would be a hot AI startup that was doing enterprise search, so sort of like Glean before its time. And then that company was acquired by Oracle. So I joined Oracle as part of the acquisition. So I went from the world of unstructured data to the world of structured data, the world of databases. And then I switched from the operating side to the investing side by helping start Bloomberg Ventures, which was the predecessor to Bloomberg Beta, so the investment and incubation arm of Bloomberg LP. So there I switched to the world of financial data. And then quite naturally, as I joined FirstMark as a partner over 10 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. I naturally started investing in data, machine learning, and AI. So, different side of the table, but consistently thinking and investing in anything that has to do with data and AI.
Yeah, and I often think some of the best investors are those that have previously been operators. It's not easy being an operator, particularly in recent years, I would say. Is this absolutely the most exciting, yet perhaps the hardest time in the industry? What do you think?
I think it's a fantastic time in the industry. Look like that trend of data, machine learning, and AI. Which I have the MAD podcast, have the MAD landscape for machine learning and AI and data. It's truly been amazing. I mean, it's been the mega trend of all mega trends, and it keep playing out in lots of different ways. 10 plus years ago, we were all here getting super excited about Hadoop and, big data and, that whole ecosystem, and then Spark, and then cloud data warehouses, and then the modern data stack. And, in the middle of all of that, there was the rise of deep learning, and then transformers. And so there's always something going on. It's just absolutely fascinating to be involved in this industry. And yeah, look, like we're in another, to say the obvious, very major hype cycle. This time around generative AI, and what's notable about this hype cycle is that it doesn't seem to be dying down. As a society, we have a pretty short attention span. And we tend to get bored of like anything that's hot after a few months, maybe a year. And this has been going on since the end of November 2022, and it doesn't seem to be showing any sign of slowing down. So it's fascinating to watch, and certainly fascinating to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think it's not slowing down because it's not just hype. It's not just a shiny new toy. I do think it is a generational shift, and we've yet to unlock all the value. Do you agree or disagree with me? Am I drinking the industry Kool-Aid?
Look, it absolutely is a generational shift. For me, it's like another, case of Amara's law, though, where we overestimate the short term, underestimate the long term, and I think the reality of AI in the enterprise today is sort of far from what you would suspect. But I think we're going to get there, and I think the eventual result is going to surprise us by how radical a shift is going to be. But I think this it's hard. It's hard in those conversations to like strike the right tone, because like on the one hand, I'm like extraordinarily bullish on what's going on, but equally, as somebody that's involved in a bunch of different companies, and just like you, talking to decision leaders in large companies in particular, especially like global 2000 kind of companies, there's clearly a gap between what we all talk about on X, Twitter, and like the cold demos, and the reality of the of what's going on in the enterprise. But equally, as we all know, it takes a while to get there. But once it gets there, it's very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned some of your portfolio companies. Am I allowed to ask, is there a favorite, or is that like asking who's your favorite child?
It's a little bit like the latter, but look, that's one of the cool things about being a VC, that you get to work with companies at the very beginning, and then, hopefully see them grow. And then, fast forward to a few years, and then you have like different companies doing different things, so like at different levels of maturity. Certainly for me, Didaiku has been a wonderful journey, because this company where I led the Series A back in 2016, that was way ahead of its time in terms of like seeing the power of the the vision for enterprise AI, and by now the company has like scaled globally. They have 700 800 very large customers, and they are in the hundreds of millions of ARR, and it's a company that is particularly fascinating in that, because they're a broad platform for all things enterprise AI, they just like, whatever comes next, they just like bring into the platform. So they did a lot of what is currently known as traditional machine learning. And then as generative AI came on the scene, they just started adding those capabilities, because like ultimately, like for me, the future of AI in the enterprise is very much hybrid. It's going to be large models, it's going to be small models, it's going to be like commercial APIs, it's going to be open source, it's going to be traditional machine learning, it's going to be a lot of generative AI, and you need one platform to make it all work together in a way that you can sort of like manage and govern from one central place. And that's what Didaiku has been doing. So it's in our job, it's rare enough when you invest early in a company and they have exactly the right vision and they keep going for a long time, and then that vision years later becomes truly a reality. So when that happens, that's a fantastic thing. But look, you mentioned Synthesia. That's like another one that's super fascinating. to me because, we did the Series A in whenever that was 2021, and it was leaked in the press. It just did another round, like a Series D, that values them at over 2 billion in valuation, for what it's worth. But what's been fascinating about those guys is that they've started doing generative AI basically in 2017 or 18, when there was just not such a thing as generative AI. And I remember when we did the Series A, we actually struggled to come up with a category name just for the announcements and the blog posts and all the things. And we ended up calling it synthetic media. But, and then generative AI came on, and we're like, okay, all right, that's the term. So, just a couple of companies, since you mentioned them kindly up front at the beginning of the discussion, but, privileged to work with a number of companies, from Ada in the customer service AI world to SurrealDB, which is an emerging multimodal database, to Pigment in data for business planning kind of world. So anyway. I'm a VC, so if you give me a chance, I'll mention all my portfolio companies.
Yes. Well, we only have 20 minutes, and I know you have a lot, but it has been cool to see Dataiku grow to where it is. I was at Gartner at that point in time, when they were first launching, and actually why they piqued my interest. It wasn't just the low code ML or citizen data scientists. It was also data and AI for good. They had a unique angle there as well. So as an investor, you get pitched all the time by startups at different stages. And if you can put yourself in the shoes of a chief data and AI officer who has to evaluate where they place their bets, and I would say oftentimes in large enterprises, they tend to be more risk averse. So they go to this full stack buying. Nobody ever got fired buying from fill in the blank, an IBM, an AWS, whichever hyperscaler. And I do see a difference with digital natives who are more willing, or maybe it's part of their culture and DNA, to look at what's new and coming in the startup ecosystem. What are some of the lessons you want these data and AI leaders to take from your investment experiences?
Yeah, so look, I think it's absolutely critical to focus on AI and experiment with lots of different things. So, like as we were just discussing, right? It's a fundamental paradigm shift. So, clearly, this is the moment to just actually spend a lot of time in those areas, because it is for real. It's not like a hypey VC Twitter thing. It's absolutely a shift. So, first and foremost, I think a lot of people have got the memo, and a lot of people are doing a lot of things. So now, I think there's a couple of things, as you consider building your enterprise AI kind of capabilities. There's sort of low-hanging fruit, and there's the more sophisticated stuff. I think for the low-hanging fruit, there's a handful of capabilities, like sort of like everybody needs to have, and that enable you to start doing AI, quote unquote, pretty quickly. And that's sort of what we've seen for the last year and a half or so. And that's been, mostly search and chatbots, like variations of those things. And, or we were talking about Synthesia. That's like another example, just like transforming your videos into like AI generated videos. And what's kind of cool about this is that, it doesn't require you to just fundamentally alter your processes and rebuild or evolve your core data foundation. So it's sort of the first step that we've seen people do, and look for those. I think we've seen indeed people going to large hyperscalers and or OpenAI or OpenAI on top of Azure, and get this done effectively and quickly with some results. And I think it's all like perfectly fine. However, there is a like a whole different universe which is around doing more sophisticated stuff, and more importantly, doing AI projects that are directly related to your business, your industry, your data.
Yeah.
And if you want to thrive and win in the AI world, that's where the real value is going to be, because everybody else is going to have those tools like those chatbots and search and like all the AI functionality that will be built into your Microsoft productivity apps. Like that's going to be table stakes. Everybody's going to have that. For the stuff that's specific to you and your industry and your data, that's where you're going to need to work with a bunch of different vendors and projects, including open source stuff, and build a lot of this, yourself. In some cases you'll have building blocks. In some cases you'll use open source. In some cases you'll use startup vendors, because like startups, as we know, are always going to be at the forefront of innovation for all those things. I think we're getting to that second phase now, where people have done some of the low-hanging fruits and are starting to think about what now, and how do I truly derive value from this AI wave.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, Matt, because so all this innovation is coming faster. The verticalization, so your industry, your business data, is also coming at buyers. At the same time, really, I would say CIOs and CFOs are saying, simplify my tech portfolio and do more with less. So you're in the 11th year, almost the 12th year of the MAD landscape. Last year had over 1,000 vendors, a 42% increase year over year. That's a lot of choice. That's a lot of choice for a buyer to navigate.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's a reality, right? I mean, I'd love to say there's a silver bullet somewhere, but it's just not. Look, so I mean, certainly the hyperscalers are trying to consolidate a bunch of different things into one platform. Certainly, Databricks is trying to do the same and be the data and AI company. But equally, there are forces that are going the other way, right? The whole iceberg movement that in fact is going to accelerate sort of data decentralization and the query engines and the starbursts and that whole ecosystem where ultimately I don't think it's the reality that you're going to put all your data in one basket, nor should you. I think the future is hybrid in terms of where you store the data, how you process the data, ingest it, transform it, and all the things. And then on the AI front, as we were alluding to earlier, I think it's going to be a combination of different things. It's going to be like small specialized model. There's going to be large LLMs that will serve as like front end for a bunch of queries. You're going to have actually a lot of traditional machine learning, which is like an idea that a lot of people are just don't want to hear, but like this whole world of prediction, optimization, predictive analytics that has been in deployment at scale in a bunch of different enterprises, which is not going to be replaced by generative AI. And then you're going to have generative AI for a whole different kind of use cases around generation of text and code and all the things. So yes, it would be awesome to have one or two companies that just like provide all of this and then you're done, but it's just not the reality, especially as you try to build competitive advantage. You're going to have to work with different kind of companies and vendors and projects. It's messy, but it's the reality.
It is messy. And I think your message is you just have to deal with it. You can't stick your head in the sand, or there's risks of that as well before there's any kind of consolidation. Um, and yeah, you brought up iceberg, and who could imagine that open table formats would be such a hot topic, such a geek out topic in 2024. One of the other predictions you wrote about last year was around the rise of unstructured data in the modern AI stack. How well did that play out, or do we still have so much lessons and maturing to do in 2025?
Um, yeah, so we certainly certainly have a lot of maturing to do, but like that's sort of obvious. Like I don't even know to which extent that counted as a prediction versus just observing what's already happening in the industry. So clearly AI is fed by unstructured data. Therefore, the whole stack that was built for the modern data stack, which on the whole, I know I'm caricaturing, exaggerating, but like on the whole was more structured data. So the whole ELT, TL, data warehouses, and then on the other side, like BI analytics vendor, which largely, structured data. For AI, that's a different kind of data, right? That's mostly unstructured. That's what's coming from email and video and audio and all the things. And for that, we have been seeing the emergence of a separate stack, and maybe it all merges eventually, but we've seen that throughout the year. With a bunch of companies appearing left and right and getting funded for data ingestion and whatever Reducto and unstructured.io and TensorLake. Vectorize, like that whole stack, and then a bunch of companies around data processing, which is a part that is not completely solved, because again, like a lot of the processing engines that are currently on the market were created in the prior sort of more structured data kind of a version of the world. And then in terms of like unstructured data management, that's been the rise of all the vector databases in particular, which is a trend that's still very much playing out, and in some ways early. It was a big question of like, okay, do you need special vector databases, or do you need more specialized kind of databases? Our entry in the field, as I mentioned up front, is this company called SurrealDB that particularly shines in the context of graph vector use cases, which seems to be one of the key emerging use cases in that world.
Yeah, so still a lot for these worlds to come together, which is ultimately what decision makers want, is any data anywhere.
And by the way, it's it's when I say the reality, and like we all have to deal with it. Like I'm not saying it's necessarily an awesome thing, but it's just the data world, keeps evolving in those ways.
Matt, one area where you and I seem to differ in opinion is related to natural language processing for analytics. So you wrote last year, the holy grail of data analytics has been its democratization. And natural language, if it were to become the interface to notebooks, databases, BI tools, would enable a much broader group of people to do analysis. But many people in the BI industry are skeptical. Are you more convinced now that this is possible, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm more convinced. And look, to be perfectly clear, I mean, I love the ideal of the trend. I think democratization is indeed the key way our industry wins. So regardless of the product, I think, everybody in the enterprise needs to be a data and AI person, regardless of your job, whether you're in, HR or finance or, take your department. So I think that's the end result. So anything that requires democratization, I'm a big fan of. And certainly the ability to query in natural language, databases and all the things, making that available to everyone is a very powerful idea. Like you guys are at ThoughtSpot know this better than anyone, but this whole prior paradigm of if you're the CEO, if you're C-level or SVP level, then you can have any of your query answered because you can ask the BI analyst to run the query and then you'll get your report. But if you're not a C-level or an SVP, then good luck. Take a number and stay in line, and we may have your information in a couple of weeks if we get to it. So that whole paradigm just doesn't work. So democratization is super important. So that's the key thing. Now, at a more precise answer to your question, it seems that in the last year there's been a tremendous amount of progress that has been done in that sort of text to SQL world. From what I'm hearing, we're not completely there. Maybe you guys are there, and haven't seen a demo recently. But certainly between what you guys have done, what others have done, younger startups have done, and also internally there were some interesting articles about Uber and their Query GPT engine that they did internally, and I think Pinterest did some interesting work as well internally. And collectively we seem to be getting there. Which I think is fantastic news for the industry, given the above.
Yeah, and we would say text to straight SQL, that might be fine for a data analyst, but not for a business user. You need some governance and IP in between to ensure accuracy and trust. But give us a bold prediction for 2025, Matt.
A bold prediction. I don't know if it's a bold prediction or wishful thinking, but very much to the theme of this discussion, I would predict that there's going to be a number of big acquisitions in our general space in 2025. I think it's long overdue. To your point about the Mad landscape having an ever increasing number of companies. I think the market is going to lend itself to it because we sort of 3 or 4 years into the kind of deceleration of the enterprise software market, right, that really started in the fall of 2021. And I think people in particular have much more measured expectations around what a good return might be. So there's a whole series of unicorn type companies that are very high quality companies with great products, but maybe have had a tough 2 to 3 years kind of thing. Since the fall of 21, and I think those companies are going to be much more receptive to a strong acquisition price, but that may not be the multiple of their prior valuation price that they might have hoped for, as recently as 2022. So I think the market is going to lend itself to it. I think a lot of big potential acquirers are generally feeling good about life because their stock price has been doing very well. So this whole tension between the public markets doing very well, especially in tech, but the private markets, still recovering. I think lends itself well to a wave of consolidation. So I think there's going to be multiple, billion-dollar plus acquisitions, as well as a whole range of acquisitions in the several hundreds of millions. In addition to market conditions, just to finish the thought, I also think it just makes sense. It makes tons of sense if you're a global 2000 company, especially a non-tech one. And you see the writing on the wall with this whole data and AI wave just accelerating. You need to build those capabilities into your company. So as we discussed, some of it you're going to get from large vendors. A lot of it you're going to have to build yourself. But as part of the build yourself, you may want to buy as well occasionally. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of acquisitions.
Yeah, so definitely a fascinating time to be working in the market, watching and making things happen. Maybe to wrap it up, how about a fun non-data and AI prediction? Could be sports, could be snow in New York. I don't know.
A fun, bold prediction in sports. Let's see. All right, I'm making this up on the spot, but let's say that in sports, Kylian Mbappe of France is going to become the highest scorer in one season in the history of European soccer, which I think probably means over 50 goals. I think Messi is it Ronaldo? That's probably Messi is the owner of the record with 50 goals, and that's somewhat controversial because like since he joined Real Madrid, he's been doing well, but not exceptionally well. And there's other people on his team that also score goals.
Yeah.
But I'm rooting for that.
I love it. And I can't wait to hear what our friend Bruno has to say about that. So, with that, I'll say I hope your prediction comes true, Matt. And
Yeah,
thank you for being on the Data Chief podcast.
absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
I'm excited to introduce our next guest, Steve Nouri. Steve is a globally recognized expert in AI, data science, and machine learning, with a strong passion for advancing ethical AI practices. He is the founder of AI for Diversity, a global nonprofit initiative with over 4,000 volunteers working to make the industry more inclusive. And more recently, he founded GenAI Works, a community of now over 8 million GenAI enthusiasts, learners, and experts. Steve, welcome to the Data Chief.
Thanks for having me, Cindi. It's great to be here.
So, Steve, you jet set around the world on a mission. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm right now in Abu Dhabi. I moved to UAE almost a month ago and spent a couple of weeks in Dubai, and now I'm officially in Abu Dhabi. I'll be based in UAE for some time. So looking forward to collaborate and work with communities here. We're already having conversations to explore partnerships with government and also other organizations that are kind of aligned in the mission with generative AI.
Yeah, that's great. I can confirm you are now our first guest joining from that part of the world. We did have Judson Taylor actually join from the airport in Dubai once, which I was surprised he was willing to accept Wi-Fi, airport Wi-Fi. But so thank you for making time. Steve, you write so much. I follow you on LinkedIn like so many others do. You write about the latest models, a number of startups. How do you keep up?
I mean, that's actually a great question. I get asked a lot. First of all, thank you for checking some of my posts and content. This is crazy. Like, the news are coming from everywhere, and I like staying updated. It's like drinking from the fire hose, literally. It's sometimes I fear the FOMO. I get overwhelmed with the news. But like any others, I follow the social media, follow the leaders, and read a lot of academic papers to see what's going on underlying trends. So these are the major stuff. But at the same time, I'm going to share, probably it's the first time that I'm saying it, but I do cheat a little bit. I have access to these companies that are delivering these services and products, and they're a little bit nicer and will allow me to have access to their products and services a little bit before it's released to the public. And I have access to their embargoed news and sort of releases. So yeah, a mixture of everything. I still try to keep myself up to date with signing up to all the products that are available. I have access to probably more LLM that I really need, but I just want to make sure that I understand and I do keep myself hands-on with multiple of them, like let's say ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and whatever else that is in between. I don't know. It's not something that I would recommend for people to do, but it's definitely taking a huge chunk of my life. And that's one of the reasons that we started GenAI Works. That's actually the story of GenAI Works, where we started like 2 years ago. It's just because literally everybody was talking about generative AI and sharing all the news. Some of them were not very factual. Some of them were not. The expectations were kind of like growing out of sort of realistic expectation of the AI. So I thought that's a place that we need to change sort of the access of the public to something that is more curated, more fact driven, and more helpful, valuable for them.
Yeah, yeah. So first off, I would say that's not cheating. That's you have the privilege of getting early insights. When you said I cheat a little, I thought, oh, he's going to tell us which LLM kind of gives him the shortcuts to who you should be watching. But that's just, I think that's just being at the cutting edge. If you think about where the innovations are coming, and you mentioned academia and I do see differences in what's coming out of academia versus the startup community versus the mega vendors. Are there any kind of key takeaways there that you think we should pay more or less attention to?
Yeah, so about the cheating, I wish I had that kind of application that you could press a button and get all the interesting and important news in my inbox, or even better, in my WhatsApp. But yeah, as you said, that's not available so far. But yeah, so the research is a sort of indication of what's going to come in industry with a bit of delay. So if you just look at the number of research paper that came out in specifically NLP sort of area, was like it kind of peaked around the time that ChatGPT came out, and then you would see much more of the vision and sort of image generation and image analysis coming out these days, and started maybe 6 months ago to peaking to a certain level that you would see these are getting close to something that is more applied, and it can be used by the public, and there would be probably some of the application coming soon, where we saw like Sora and a little bit earlier other sort of image generation, video generation tools that became available to the public. So that's pretty much the reason that I try to keep up with the academic papers and research. My focus is mostly industry and applied AI right now. So less of the theoretical ones and more of what can actually add value
Yeah.
to our to the businesses. And it's very helpful, specifically for people that are looking to invest, or maybe they want to start their own startup leveraging AI. They can get a pulse from just checking the trends
Yeah.
in the
And
research. Yeah.
and given that you have visibility across a wide range, is there a particular trend within that body of Gen AI that you're most excited about?
I'm actually excited about a lot of things at this point, honestly. With all the news that are coming from Google, OpenAI, 12 days of OpenAI were very interesting for me, particularly just to understanding what they are doing in terms of um, delivering more value by adding more UX and UI to their core capability versus just pushing the accuracy and pushing the, I guess, the Chat GPT numbers to 5 and 6. So that's something interesting. And if you think about it, it was actually a lot of people believe, including myself, that the ChatGPT revolution was actually driven by UX and UI and
Yes.
the access,
It was
right?
easy. Yeah.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
92-year-old aunt could sign up for it. Who would
Yeah,
have thought?
100%. Exactly. Like my mom is using ChatGPT and she's not into um, um, AI products at all. So everybody's kind of leveraging it right now. But that if you go back to the moment, that ChatGPT moment, you will know that it is driven by access. So now I can see that again. Um, these companies are kind of casting the net wide and trying to make sure that everybody can leverage all the capabilities. When GPT-3 became available, I think GPT-2 and 3, they were mostly an API based.
Yes.
And a lot of people were just leveraging APIs, delivering some use cases and MVPs and proof of concepts. And you would see tweeting about it and it looks interesting. A lot of people were like, wow, that's cool. But like, there's no way that they could actually get access to those products. Now with new products coming out of all these big um, Gen AI providers, you will see that how they are applying Gen AI and LLMs to some products. So it's getting closer to what we are using, like to um, our emails, to the Google Docs, and um, kind of like all the Office products now have Gen AI incorporated. Some of these AI providers are trying to build their own suite of applications because they don't want to be just the seller of the crude oil. They want to have their own refinery. So now they are building. I've heard that OpenAI is going to announce their own browser very soon to compete with Chrome, and they now have their own search, kind of the search engine, replacing what we used to use, which was Google. So these are the new phenomenon of like how these trends are moving forward. But I'm excited about, particularly, I'm excited about something that is coming next, and that's the embodied AI. And it is sort of available. We're seeing the glimpse of these robots that are being shown in the summits and conferences by Tesla and Figure One and others. But you would you would kind of feel the ChatGPT moment is coming soon with these models as they become with these robots as they become much more robust and also cheaper. And some of them are actually um, like it's something that you would imagine it's possible to buy to help you with the daily life, taking care of maybe garden, maybe doing
Laundry.
some of the work, maybe laundry. Yeah, that's actually the good one.
Well,
uh,
that's what, the tagline is, oh, AI will do everything for you. It'll even do your laundry, the jobs that we don't like. And so you're actually saying you see a future where that actually is not too far off.
yes, I think in 2025 or maybe early 2026 we will see this cute robots walking in the street with us. I mean, it might not be literally everywhere in the same number of humans, but you will see them adopted by some of the early adopters, and as they are being rolled out, things will start changing.
So this has a huge impact on the way data professionals and data science professionals work, the skills they need. You have long been at the forefront of training data science professionals for years. And then 2 years ago, you founded this new community. How do you explain the rapid growth of GenAI Works in just less than 2 years now, 8 million members, if I have that right.
That's right. Yeah, we are so excited about it as well. So first of all, I'm grateful for all the community members, everybody that has been super supportive of this project, following, helping, giving us feedback, and we all are open for any criticism and feedback to make our content better, to make us help our community better. So that's the important part of the building a community. So hearing and listening from them. But I think the whole story is like the moment that the world kind of woke up to this new trend of ChatGPT changing everything, it got bombarded with all the noise and all the misinformation coming from everywhere. And I wouldn't go that far that some people might have agenda, but like, let's just say that there was a lot of misrepresentation of things coming from everywhere. It's a trendy topic, and many just wanted to get to on the bandwagon with this trend. So we found that there is a need for more of a trusted voice, a place that is curating content, trying to cut through the noise by delivering more fact-checked, low hype, low sort of jargon information. So that was the beginning of this journey.
Yeah. And Steve, let me challenge you. Debate this. People do have an agenda. Companies do have an agenda. And it just depends where they're coming from, whether it's to make money, dominate a field. There's also the socio-political aspects of this. And so, there are different motivations in putting reliable and unreliable content out there. Do you agree or disagree?
I do not disagree with that. Um, I just wanted to kind of ignore the fact that there might be an agenda. Let's just say if everybody has even a great motivation to help, but then there are a lot of them that are misrepresenting and sharing misinformation. But I do believe that also there are people with agendas. There are people that are only thinking about their own financial gains through this.
Yeah, exactly. So
and that's one of the major driver actually for misinformation, because they will get something out of it. And there's a lot of people that are sharing something that they're not sure about it, but they don't have any agenda. They are easier to to work with and collaborate, and they are more open.
Yeah. So thank you. So super fast pace here. I don't even know, can we look 5 years out, or maybe we go closer 2 years out? How do you see this impacting the role of the data scientist and data professionals in general?
5 to 10 years is a very long time in the AI world.
Yes.
As we say, like in dog world, things go 10x faster. In the AI words, it goes like, I don't know, 20 or 100x faster. So, but I would say maybe in, let's say, 2 years. And it's still 2 years is crazy, because things can change very rapidly. We are seeing people doing less coding, more relying on their co-pilots. I think right now 50% of the codes are generated by AI, and not necessarily these are the major, like the whole product being generated. It's more of assistant and kind of filling the gaps and auto completing the half of let's say a part of the code, and taking care of the repetition and things like that. But I can see that it's going to evolve. It's going to evolve to become more and more robust. So we will be relying more on AI to do the coding, and data scientists need to code to a certain degree at this point. Right now, Python programming is still part of it. SQL coding is still part of it. Like these are things that are, I mean, for some people, they're using R or other languages is still major part of a data scientist job.
So maybe it's we need the skills to verify that AI generated the correct results, but we're having to do less
Exactly.
ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to exactly. You made a perfect conclusion that we will be part of this story. We'll be watching it closely as a supervisor, and we'll make the final decisions in many cases. But AI is going to do a lot of the junior tasks that we used to give to, let's say, a data scientist will assign it to an intern, or will spend a lot of time just burning the time and energy to do that particular, let's say, exploratory analytics. It's something that you would do it. It takes time, energy, or maybe you want to find the best way to get rid of the anomalies, or if you need to do any sort of compute of the missing sort of data. So these can be generated by AI. So there are lots of little things, sort of tactical, that would be replaced by AI, and things going to get faster. So the work that a team of 10 data scientists used to do will be done by a team of 2 or maybe
Yeah,
1.
yeah.
And
So if
that will allow everyone to use data analytics and data science in their work. There are lots of companies, organizations that are still cannot afford to have enough data scientists in their team embedded, right? So that would enable everyone to leverage data even more.
So it sounds like you're also saying some data scientists and data analysts are afraid that AI will kill their jobs, but it sounds like you're making it more accessible to everyone who previously couldn't find or fill these roles.
100%. And then that's exactly what I feel that would be the case in the short term. I would not go to the long-term prediction because it's just so far away and it's so complex to go there that far. Um, we will think about it and we'll talk about it from ethical perspective, just mitigating the risk, but I would not go too deep into what might come, what sort of AI might come that will be able to do certain complex scenarios that it's just out of our imagination at this point.
Yeah, and so that's a good segue to your other company, AI for Diversity. On this theme, do you think AI and this democratization of Gen AI will level the playing field, or will it actually widen the equity gap?
That's a great question, and I had the similar question in my mind a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, when I started that community. So it's a non-for-profit
Mhm.
community, and I was thinking, like, what is the impact of all these automation, AI decision making on underrepresented groups, underprivileged groups, the people that do not have access to AI, or they don't have even enough data representation in to be leveraged. Um, so that was the sort of thinking, like what's going to happen, and if there's any bias, who is going to evaluate those bias if they don't have a representation in decision making? If there's nobody around the seat, there's no one to catch that particular
Yes.
issue, right? So, so 4 years ago, I reached out to some awesome people, and most of them shared the same concern. and they felt that there's a need for more. I mean, this is not anything innovative or inventive. Everybody thoughts about it, but I wanted to just put it in action. So I started this, and the major call to action was like to start by having in-person events that will allow underrepresented groups, marginalized groups to be more involved, because they might not even have access to internet in some cases, or they
Yes.
might not be able to feel as welcomed. Just watching a YouTube video will not give them all the possible value that an in-person event in a rural area would do. So we started with that as an idea. We have done like more than 100 events around the world in many different places in collaboration with universities, governments, and all the experts that have accepted to actually deliver the talks, join the conversations. A lot of times we have panel discussions or debates that we have like a representation of government and academia and industry on the same place, talking with each other, trying to share things from different perspectives. And the public, and these events are free, open to everyone. And we usually try to encourage underrepresented groups, but we do not close the doors. If anybody wants to join, it's free, it's open. And what happens is just like there are lots of people that coming to these conversations for the first time. They can see this sort of a diversity of the panelists even. At the same time, people from different perspectives tackling the same problem. And that's very interesting to watch how these discussions evolve in different communities, in different countries. What are the concerns of the people and the decision makers? And that was like one of the privileges that I had. Last 2 years, I traveled to more than 30 countries to be able to be in these events in person myself, to talk to people directly. And I was just a fly on the wall. I tried to not get involved into the discussions because I wanted to be driven by the community itself. So I was just sitting there listening, talking to everyone. And this observation actually helped me to understand a lot about different perspectives. And this means that we do need to think about ethics, ethical frameworks, and diversity much deeper, because there are lots of different variations of the things. It's
For
not
sure.
unified understanding of one. I mean, there are principles that are shared, but there are a lot of nuances in there.
Yeah, deeper and probably earlier in the process. Well, Steve, I feel like we could go on for quite a long time, but maybe to wrap up, share a bold prediction for 2025 that we haven't already touched on.
That's a good one, because I try to just keep myself away from a lot of prediction. My prediction always go wrong.
Or a
So,
trend, a trend we
yes,
should all be watching.
yes, yeah. No, that's a good one. So a couple of things that I would probably, as I mentioned, I would look for these embodied AI and robots coming in to end of 2025, early 2026. And the other one that is very exciting, very I don't know, they call it bullish these days about it, is the agentic AI.
Oh, yeah.
That would definitely be something that everybody excited. And at GenAI, we are trying to enable building and surfacing and delivering those agentic AI. And I guess the last one for me is autonomous cars, and that's something that I'm also very excited about. Hopefully, that would take care of a lot of things like traffic, the pollution, and also, it just makes our life much easier. But I would not go that deep into many other things that are happening that it's just so exciting for everyone. Generating videos are exciting, adding AI into all of the workflows and sort of products that we are using exciting. Maybe even the devices that we are going to use is going to change and become more and more simplistic in terms of the UI and the UX, and just being embedded and watching our life and interacting with us like in real time. Movie her might come to our minds. I would just end there.
Yeah, no. Well, we have to also end on a fun note. How about a prediction? Could be sports, travel, maybe where in the world you and I will first meet in real life. Give us a fun prediction.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so first of all, my work and AI for me is fun. So all the things that I shared so
Yes.
far, it's just so fun for me, and I'm really, really grateful that I'm at this point of time. I am in this particular, I guess, technology revolution era, and I'm sure that during the history, everybody felt the same at each point of time. Maybe Edison felt the same, and all others. But anyway,
So true. I agree.
that's that's very cool. I wish that we could we could have met in Sydney when
Yes, we
you
missed
arrived
by a
here.
week.
Why a week exactly? So maybe next time I'm in the US or you're in Dubai, that would be the best. And yeah, about some of the fun prediction, I don't know, maybe we can rely on Elon Musk to send us to Mars and have more of the tourism in Mars. I don't know. I wouldn't be so excited about going there, but I'm sure it's fun for some people. Last time I checked the photos, it was not so interesting, but
Bragging rights for sure.
you never
Steve,
know.
thank you so much for all you do for the community, our industry, and for being on the Data Chief.
Thank you very much, Cindi.
Next up, we have Joe Reis, the author of Fundamentals of Data Engineering, a Data Chief must-read book in 2022. Joe is also the host of his own podcast, The Joe Reis Show. Joe is a practicing data engineer and a recovering data scientist, a professor, and an author of another book coming out in 2025, Mixed Model Arts, which covers end-to-end data modeling. Joe, welcome to the Data Chief.
Hi, Cindi. How are you?
Good. Now, Joe, I see you around the world, oftentimes speaking, consulting. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm at home in Salt Lake City. It's nice to be back.
Yeah. How's the snow out there?
It's getting there. I'm getting lots of snow right now. So I might have to go snowboarding this week. Be awesome.
Sounds good to me. I keep feeling like we need to do a data and AI meetup on the slopes out there with Joe.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how you came to be known as the data engineering guru.
Oh, geez. I think mostly on accident and writing a book along the way. Right, I'd sort of been podcasting and blogging about data engineering for a while. Then Matt Housley and I co-wrote Fundamentals of Data Engineering, which came out, as you pointed out, in 2022. And that book took off. As far as I can tell, it's, at least in terms of data engineering books, I would say it's the foundational book that people are using right now. And that was cool to see. So I guess, it was interesting. I was talking to a friend the other day about books, and I think it's interesting because while you're writing the book, nobody knows that you're writing it, right? And nobody considers you to be an expert. But once the book's out, all of a sudden, like, you're the same person that you woke up the previous day, but now you're an expert at things, I suppose. So, but yeah, I've been talking on data engineering topics for a while. I've been writing on it, and it's cool to see the success of that book. And along the way, that led into a course I recently did with Andrew Ng's deep learning AI with for data engineering. So there's a data engineering certificate now in Coursera as well. So that's also cool to see. So I think the broader thing that I'm really excited about is to see data engineering really become sort of a force of its own. Because I think for the longest time, as you know, you were an old BI ETL person, and it was sort of relegated to the back office. It's very cool to see it getting finally the attention that I think it deserves. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think of I often say that if you are still using the job title ETL developer, it's not the right title. or the right mindset or connection back to the business and what you're trying to build. But you also started as a practitioner. Can you share a story from that time?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started, late 90s, early 2000s ish. And so my background's actually in math. And I guess, whatever you'd call data science these days. I was studying to be an actuary and, got a job doing, I think that the title was analyst, but then that morphed into other stuff like operations, kind of research type problems, so optimizations and stuff. So, that's my background, is more just, I think, doing stuff with data. But along the way, especially when you kind of maybe remember back in the day, it's like you're pretty resource constrained for stuff. So you have to figure out ways you're going to get data, store it, process it, and so forth. And so, and I think around, it was the early 2010s, I was working at a machine learning startup. This is really early on. And then I think that's when I started realizing sort of the power of whatever we'd now call data engineering, and to a lesser extent, ML ops. Even we were doing that kind of stuff back then. So, and decided I liked the engineering part more. So decided to kind of branch into that because I felt it was, at least for myself, right? It kind of just resonated better. So.
Yeah, well, for sure, you can't do ML or analytics or AI without good, clean data, ideally from all the disparate sources, and then you can still trust it.
Absolutely.
But making that data usable, we have a gap in our industry. And I think you are again filling a need in the industry. Tell us about the book that will come out in 2025.
Nice lead in. So the book is called Mixed Model Arts, and this is a play on mixed martial arts, right? So I will draw an analogy here. So, maybe in the 60s, 70s, 1980s, right? I was a kid. I'm not sure what you were doing, but I was watching a lot of kung fu theater movies and pro wrestling and just boxing because my information diet's pretty bad. And so, but back then, martial arts was really, one dimensional, right? You can pick karate, wrestling, boxing, whatever. And then mixed martial arts, mostly through the UFC back in the day, like that sort of blew up in the notion of being one dimensional. And really what it forced people to do with martial arts is becoming very multidimensional, right? And learning things like, integrating all the different styles together, right? Whether it's boxing, wrestling, so stand up and ground combat and whatever. But being martial arts nerd myself, I started drawing analogies actually in parallels to the data world. I think for the longest time we've been in a very table centric view of the world, but meanwhile there's been things happening, right? I mean, you've had streaming data that's been happening for a long time. You've had multimodal data, text, images, video, audio, and so forth, right? And we've, and now we're starting to, I think what happened was ChatGPT sort of blew the door off a lot of stuff a couple of years ago, where all of a sudden people are interacting with data in new ways, right? And so you're like, okay, so the question I always had was, why are we talking about the stuff that's, it's awesome, data modeling techniques. We're talking relational modeling, even analytical modeling techniques, Kimball, Data Vault, and so forth. But why are we still talking about this when they've been around for a long time? It's great to talk about it, but why aren't we also integrating these ideas into new ways of working with data? Because that seems to be the reality we've been in for a while, actually, and certainly the future we're going towards is multimodal use cases across applications, analytics, and machine learning. So that's really what I've been focusing on with this book is sort of integrating and tying together all the modeling techniques across different use cases, across different modes of data. And so,
so I love the analogy of the martial arts and the mixed data types. So one of the trends that I wrote in our annual trends ebook and predictions is around how generative AI and these new data types will upend the traditional data management practices. Yep. And so I think, to your point, cool. It's and even in the relational world, I think we made a lot of mistakes, maybe because we had limited compute resources, or people take the lazy way out and default to the way a particular tool forces them to model something. So people went back to one big table because that's all they knew.
Yep.
They didn't learn some of these dimensional modeling techniques.
Sure.
So if you think about both these factors, that we have low skills in structured data, we have new data types coming in all at once. What is your prediction here, and what should people do about it?
I think there's a couple of threads here. So I bucket it into basically knowledge and skills and then technology. And so the knowledge and skills part, I think what you're alluding to is absolutely correct. It feels like data modeling to a large extent has been a dying art form. I think when you and I were, sort of coming up in the world way back in the day, whenever that was, data modeling and I think approaches to data were actually much more rigorous and I think more thoughtful. Maybe it was because of the constrained environment, but I also think it was because there were standard practices that people adopted, and there wasn't. I don't think there was many opinions about what orthodoxy meant, right? You mentioned the relational model. I'm actually writing in my book about that right now, right? It's something where how many relational databases have you seen? I'm talking about application databases where they aren't relationally modeled. It's and then people get to deal with the side effects of that. So I feel like knowledge is one of these things where at least if you know the various techniques, you point out dimensional modeling as well. If you know that, then you can have an opinion. I think, okay, so do I want to do one big table, or am I better equipped? Am I better off doing a dimensional model? Right? Then at least you have the ammo to make a decision versus, I would say, sort of picking a technique, not really understanding it, but then doing it. Right? That leads to all sorts of problems, as we've all seen over the years. It's sort of the inescapable thing. But now you want to throw AI on top of this. Right now, you want to throw AI on top of these data sets, and I think you can imagine what happens in these situations. But from a technology angle as well, I think that what you're going to see is better ways of integrating these data sources together, and I'm really excited to see what that looks like. I think this is still speculative, but what I am starting to see, especially talking to my friends more of the kind of the knowledge graph community, is this is pushed to maybe at some point you see a universal model layer, what do you call it, semantic layer or metrics, whatever, but sort of end to end from applications all the way to ML. And so it's an exciting time because I think it's what's happening now is forcing people to go back to the drawing board and, as you say, revisit, what's been working with certain approaches like data management and what should we be reconsidering and moving forward right now. So I think it's a very exciting time in the industry. So
It is an exciting time. I would also say it's a confusing time because then you also referenced the semantic layer. And there's a lot going on here too. And I just think, well, semantic layers have been around for 30 years. I think there's been different attempts to have them be independent. The MIDI bridges were one attempt early on. Now we have the DBT semantic model. We have other products like Cube.js at scale who are repositioning themselves. Do we just keep trying to solve the same problem a new way, or what's changed?
It's an interesting question. The problem hasn't gone away, right? And so I think that the problem of a cohesive language and meaning and understanding, which is what semantics, at least to me, means, that hasn't gone away, and I don't think it ever goes away. But now, if you take a step back, to me, I feel like the attempts right now with semantic layers are sort of, this is my opinion, but I think that it fixes one part of the problem, but it doesn't fix the root cause of the problem or address certainly the large scope and the vastness of data, whether it's within an organization or whether it cuts across various organizations, across different types of data as well, right? So now, how would you integrate a semantic layer to account for the meaning of what a machine learning or AI model comes up with, right? I think that's sort of the bridge that we have to get to, as well as tying it back to the source data from which all this data comes from. And so that's something I've been thinking a lot about. I don't know if I'll solve it in this book, but maybe the next one, who knows? But this is a chatter that I'm seeing right now, right? I think this is like one aspect of, as you point out, probably a mass array of things that people are discussing right now in data. Because I think right now it's sort of, this is just one part of it, semantics understanding, right? But there's infinite things that we're trying to reconsider right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. The understanding of the data is just one part of it, but also the robustness of the
Yeah.
layer. Can it handle a complex data model, multiple fact tables, or what have you, different levels of grain? Or is it going to force you to do unnatural things like one big table, which might not be well suited to business users asking certain questions? Is it going
Right.
to be able to handle different content types? So are we just still in the early days of this, or do we need to reinvent? Is it the technology or is it the skills?
I think it's a bit of both. I think we have to level up to where we are right now. I think, as I pointed out in a few blog posts, I feel like there's no shortage of awesome tools at this moment, right? If you look at Matt Turck's Mad Data Landscape, there's more tools in the universe than there probably are like stars or atoms in the universe at this point. It's amazing. You would need the James Webb Telescope, which Joe goes to see like all the startups that are in his diagram. And incidentally, that only accounts for, I believe, half of the known universe, right? I think he even said that they couldn't fit that many logos on a slide. So, so that's one part of it, right? But I don't think there's any shortage of tools right now. They're certainly addressing today's problems. So I think that the issue is twofold. With knowledge, I don't know that we have the skills or the competencies to fully leverage the tools as they stand today to their fullest potential. And the data teams that I see, it's like there's still a gap. Maybe perhaps you see the same. But when you talk to practitioners, it's like, okay, this tool is capable of doing a lot. It's not, you have the potential to operate here. Why are we operating at this level right now, right? And so I think that the tools will, when you have a person who's skilled and competent using the right tool, a lot of great things can happen. But to me, one of the bigger gaps right now is knowledge for sure. But then tools, I think it does require a new reinvention of how we've been doing things. I'm not. That's my fuzzy intuition. Again, I'm not going to be the person who talks about a problem and not providing a solution, but here I am. So, but my gut tells me that that's where we are. We have to rethink a few things.
Okay, so then let's be prescriptive with two personas. So one, imagine you're a data chief, and what would you advise them in navigating these complexities? And then the second persona, if you're a data engineer, what should you do in 2025?
Yeah, I think for leaders, it's an interesting one. A lot of data leaders that I meet, whether regardless of whatever initial they have in their title, I think that there's definitely a FOMO and a bit of a prisoner's dilemma problem with adopting AI in the organization, because they're getting a lot of pressure from the top down, especially to do AI. So I don't know that I'm going to say anything that's like new or novel here, but understand what that means to your organization. Like that's should be table stakes. But I would say invest in your people as well, right? And this will come back to the data engineers and the practitioners. Is again what I often see is an investment in tech, but not enough investment in the skills and competencies of the team. And so we just keep repeating the same mistakes over again, right? If you can imagine, if you're a carpenter or something, had no formal training, and you just gave them a bunch of hammers and nails and stuff, you can imagine if you told them to go build a house. I don't know that I would do that, but that's basically what we do with data people. We just, data practitioners, just like, we got a tool X, Y, and Z. Give me some insights. It's like, cool, I'll go do that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can fix that in 2025. And that's where I often say it's not only up to your manager, whatever their title may be, it's you have to own your own career, and you have to invest in your own learning, whether that's through reading, listening to podcasts, taking courses, going to meetups. You've got to make that time.
Absolutely. It reminds me of something that Warren Buffett actually, one of the most profound things I ever heard him say, and this is at one of the shareholder meetings once, is somebody asked him for the best investment advice, right? So of course he doesn't give out a stock tip because that's not what he does. But he did say, the best investment you can make is in yourself, right? So no matter what happens in the economy, if you're the best at what you do, and what you do is needed, you'll be able to make a good living and command what you need in the marketplace. And I think that's advice that everyone should take to heart, whether you're a practitioner, whether you're a C-level. Learning never stops, investment never stops, and the best investment you can make is always, in improving yourself, no matter what that looks like.
For sure. Any other trend or prediction you want to talk about, Joe?
Well, I don't know about you, but what I am seeing is a pendulum swing back to fundamentals. And so I think that that's actually probably the non-cool, but I think very highly relevant answer is I'm seeing a swing back to things like data modeling, and I think more robust practices, and how can we make our tools do this better? How can we do these types of practices better? So that's what I think. 2025, you'll see obviously more AI, whatever that happens to be in 2025. It feels like that changes a lot. Probably, but the flavor of the year right now is agentic AI. I suppose whatever permutation comes off of that. Who knows what the new buzzword is? But I think what I am seeing around the world with practitioners is definitely I think a reflection on the fundamentals and what it means to I think fully develop as a practitioner. And so that's exciting to see.
It is. It's like building a house on a sturdier foundation, I think is important. Joe, I always like to wrap this episode with a fun prediction. Could be your favorite sport team, could be how much snow you're going to get this year. Or is Taylor Swift going to add one more stop on her tour?
I at least my prediction is I hope that I'm curious what conference season is actually going to be like for the data world, and so I'm always excited to see what vendors are talking about every year. So it's not so much a prediction; it's more of a hope that I hope there's some interesting stuff out there. So
yeah,
as far as local predictions, I just hope there's a lot of snow in Utah so I can get out and snowboard. So
yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for being on the Data Chief.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you to our 3 visionaries for sharing their insights. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. To dig into more trends, predictions, and more importantly, resolutions, what should you do about them? Check out our top 10 trends in data and AI on thoughtspot.com. Download the ebook today for your best practices for 2025.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Data Chief. Want to learn more about today's guest, recommend a future guest, or listen to more of the show? Subscribe to the Data Chief podcast on your favorite podcast player, connect with Cindi on LinkedIn, or give her a shout on X at BI Scorecard. The Data Chief is brought to you by ThoughtSpot. Putting humans at the center of data-driven decision-making doesn't have to be complicated. ThoughtSpot makes it easy. With ThoughtSpot, anyone in your organization can intuitively answer their own data questions, find facts, and make better, faster decisions that drive real business value. Learn how companies like PepsiCo, EasyJet, and Electronic Arts have sparked their data renaissance at ThoughtSpot.com.